So No Man's Sky's Origins update might very well be just around the corner. I think that we should see it any day now, like maybe today we might get to see its trailer, and by the end of the week we will definitely have it in our hands. But it seems that this is going to be one of the most important updates that we get this year, not because of its size, but rather its importance for the very future of this game. Many speculate that this might very well be the variety update that everybody's been asking for, but I think that this is going to be a lot more important than that. Even more so with the release of the new generation of consoles, which would make total sense for Hello Games to prepare for something way bigger. So let's talk about all of that in this video, and as always, a thumbs up on it would also be super awesome. Now I do want to talk about their latest statement and the comparison that they made with the Foundation update. For those who don't know, the Foundation update was basically the first major update that the game ever received since its release in 2016. It wasn't by far the biggest, but it was one of the most important since it added new systems that since then were expanded upon up until they became core features of the game, and this includes base building, creating farms, and even owning freighters, among many other things. So seeing how the Origins update is also compared to that, I would also prepare for the possibility that it might add something completely new instead of focusing on things that are already in the game, such as for example just adding brand new assets to already existing biomes. Like, I genuinely think that the Origins update will add something completely new that nobody is expecting. And what these features might be, you might ask. Well, it's anybody's guess at this point. I mean, nobody could ever predict what Hello Games is thinking in adding in the game, but there are a few hints that kinda point towards a few possibilities. And the common denominator seems to always point towards procedural generation. It's one of the things that didn't get a big update like how other features got in the 4 years of this game's existence, and especially so not anywhere near on the levels that the artwork and the graphics got since the game has released in 2016. Even more so now that we know that Hello Games has recently started again adding new features with procedural generation, including the brand new Desolation update that has proc gen into its freighter layouts, and that is something that actually got me by surprise when it released a couple of months ago. But what's most important is that one of No Man's Sky's most recent hire is a developer that actually specializes in procedural generation and 3D modeling, especially so procedurally generated cities and a ton of other cool additions over there that I personally believe could fit that, as well as ship customization from the work that I'm seeing. Now, he also confirmed over on Twitter that none of his work was ever released so far, so I think it's very likely that this Origins update might very well be the one that introduces some of the basics of the concepts that he's been working upon. And if you think about it, I think it makes sense. If we have improved procedural generation, that in theory should also make environments that much better. If you look at the game right now, the problem isn't that the game doesn't have enough assets, it definitely does, since Hello Games has added a ton of these over the years, but rather the problem is how the game actually handles combining these in more interesting kinds of ways. Like just taking a look at the old trailers, you can see that there's not that many individual assets if you pay some attention to it, but the way that they were combined together made a lot more sense, and it made things way more interesting. Even more so when you think about all of the things that are missing just because of the procedural generation, even though the game could technically support that. Like, one of my favorite shots back in the days was this eclipse happening right here. It's not something that the game can't handle right now, it definitely can, it's just that for some reason it's missing from the game altogether. And there's many more environmental shots that could be possible right now, but because of some of the aesthetic changes and even more so because of the procedural generation that was never too interesting, they don't really seem to occur in the game too often. But there is an important aspect that I do want to talk about in this video. Of course, we've talked about the artwork. Yes, it does seem to indicate that there is a variety update incoming, and even more so if you look at the picture itself, it's the first one that features 3 separate biomes into the same artwork. Though I will say that previous iterations of this artwork were never true indicators of what the game actually contains, well, with the exception maybe of the next update that was obviously indicating multiplayer and ringed planets in the background. But outside of that, I would argue that there's an even more important hint that is given away by this artwork right here, and this is something that brings me to, of course, the PlayStation 5 release. To put things into context, the game had 11 updates up until now, with Origins being the 12th one. Out of all of these, only 3 of them had this style of artwork, and these were Alice Rises, Next, and Beyond last year. 2 of these even made it to the official covers of the physical editions of the game. So we had the Next cover artwork on the Xbox re-release in 2018, and then last year we had the Beyond artwork on the VR upgrade and the re-release on the PlayStation 4. So it's very possible that the Origins artwork is going to be the one that Hello Games is going to use for the future launch of the new generation of consoles. Like, what better other way to launch this alongside the new gen of consoles that is basically at our doorstep? Even more so when it would fit very well with the PlayStation 5 new cover of the box art, which would look really cool. I mean, this one right here would be a perfect fit for a PlayStation 5 re-release of No Man's Sky next year. And of course, the Origins being like just an introductory update for that, and whatever follows next with even bigger updates would further improve on that, just like how all of the other upgrades have already improved upon the Foundation update from 2016. Now, admittedly, the game is going to work on the PlayStation 5 anyway, as 99% of the PS4 lineup is going to be cross-gen compatible anyway. So I would totally expect 4K 60 FPS to be possible on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I would also expect that the loading times would be slightly improved, since now you have an SSD to work on, but everything that is underlying to the PlayStation 5, like for example the new SSD speeds for the in-game loading times, and not just that, that would include graphical improvements and even faster loading of assets, which would definitely require a whole upgrade to get ready for the PlayStation 5. And again, that would fit very well with some of the requests that the fan base still has, especially when it comes to those procedural cities. I think that eventually this is going to be one of the biggest features that we might get to see, hopefully by 2021. So again, smaller update now, might introduce a couple of new features, but most important, will set in stone some of these systems that eventually will be expanded upon, a maybe PS5 upgrade, and who knows, in the future some more biomes, some more new cities, and especially so those procedural cities. Anyway, this is it with the speculation on my part. We're gonna get the update either today or tomorrow at the very most, followed most likely by the patch and the patch notes sometimes on Thursday. I don't think it's gonna happen on Friday, though that did happen in the past too. It's also likely that we aren't getting any experimental branch, since it's kinda too late for that, as the update was already announced. And by the way, there's also a 50% discount on Steam that is happening right now, so yeah, it's pretty much just around the corner. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video at any point, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.